Did you guys learn so much? I learned so much. I'm worried that this is going to be a little bit overkill having two heavy topics right in a row. But what I'm hoping is that we'll talk a little bit about depression, but what I really want is to leave just a little bit of hope, a lot of hope. And an important part I lost my train of thought. Anyway, would you guys all stand up for a second? Except in the back, Tonia doesn't have to. Okay, when I point to you, I would like you to sit down. Megan, stand back up. So we've spent a lot of time talking this morning about how much we need each other. And I will tell you, for me, VISTA has been the most life-changing, the most important thing that's happened to me. And I appreciate you all so much for that. Tony and I came in together, and I spent a life at home raising a lot of kids and have not had experience, and this has opened the whole world to me. So I appreciate it. The 7 of you that are remaining standing, these are the numbers of people who potentially will be lost to suicide among our 9th graders to our 12th graders. In a group of 30, you have all attempted suicide. Those are high statistics. I'm going to point to you again. Sit down, Megan. We're left with 2 people. These are the people, these are the odds of oh, you guys, I was backward. The 7% were the people, the 7 that were standing. I'm sorry. These are the people that are attempted suicide among our group. The 7 that were standing were the people who suffer with depression. So that means of us in this room, probably me included, have had experience with major depressive disorder or a similar situation. You guys can go ahead and sit down. I sort of ruined my own demonstration. I meant to talk about the prevalence, and these stats were taken from Logan. And actually, Emily's stats were higher. The stat that I had was that 18.7 out of 10,000 of us will commit suicide. And she had it up to how many? 30 out of 100,000. So you go forward a little bit. Emily Pugsley mentioned a little bit the suicide belt. And these are the states that are included in the suicide belt. There is no explained reason. People have tried to say it's because the air is thinner in the mountainous states. There have been a lot of reasons. One of the most recent research reports that I read said that we live farther apart, and people in the West are more mobile and don't build established relationships. So the connection that we have with each other is so important in preventing both depression and suicide. Will you go forward one? Another interesting stat. These are people that are 60 and older. And you will see that by the time they get to be about 70, they are at 10% chance of having depression. However, raise your hand if you are in the top group 18 to 29. Yeah, look around. Because these are the odds of you struggling with depression. By the time you get to be in your 40s, where I am, half of you will have depression and have that struggle. Those are interesting odds. It's becoming more prevalent, and there could be a lot of reasons why. We go forward one. This was an interesting thing that I happened to come across at Skyview High School. There was a junior, right, who was working on a project. And can you not blow up this one, but go to the next one and enlarge it? Ooh, I hope you're going to be able to see it.
Yeah, just like zoom in.
You might actually have to go back to the PowerPoint presentation and enlarge it. So it's prevalent. This is a problem. Yeah, this is great. This is a problem that we're having with our youth. And since most of us are there, let me read what some of these say. I'm unsure about my sexuality. I'm terrified that one day I will wake up and you'll be gone. I just want to belong. Sometimes to stay alive, you've got to kill your mind. I thought it was such an interesting, she took these, they were anonymous tips that were sent to her through a Google form, and this junior took them and posted them on the wall. That allowed them to express their feelings, but at the same time, how did you guys feel about it?
It was really eye-opening, because some of those, she wanted it in a very positive, kind of eye-opening way, but she soon realized that it got very dark, really fast, and that it was kind of overwhelming to her, because some of these aren't even right there, but a few of them were suicidal for sure, some of them were depressive, some of them were just needing someone, but you don't know who they are, and I guess some of them weren't even posted. I mean, these are the filters that they were that were approved. We got tons more. I mean, the girl had tons more, and I think that as much as it was hard to read, it really did open up. I mean, it got the whole school talking. It got everything. I think the biggest thing is that she realized she couldn't handle everything the kids were saying, and it really touched her. I mean, she was very upset. She was crying, and it really struck her hard.
Because these were the mild ones.
Yeah, because those were the mild ones, and
she had to see all of them.
She went through every single one.
Interesting. What an interesting project, and what better way to tell some of the situation that our students are in that we obviously have no idea about. Jason.
Was it a student at Skyview that was doing it?
She was doing it for her
English Sterling Scholars.
Yeah, the Sterling Scholars Project, and she wanted to do this. She wanted to do it for longer, but because it got so overwhelming for her, she shut it down. It was a week. It was just 1 week, but I mean, it was. Teachers were talking, students were talking. We had people coming out and doing writing assignments about this wall. It really got the whole school talking.
It was so impactful for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about it for days afterward, worried and thinking about what kind of awareness that we need to have in our schools. Okay, Shauna. Okay, these are some of the signs of depression, loss of appetite, just feeling so lethargic. Sometimes when you're suffering with depression, you are in a spot where you can't move, you can't get out of bed. It's easier to lay there than to eat. Sometimes you'll have a loss of sleep, or sometimes people who are struggling with depression will need to sleep and sleep and sleep. Feelings of guilt. This one was really interesting to me, and it is going to pertain to us as we work with the youth, the persistent aches, pains, headaches. So I'm not going to read any more because you can see them. So we go to the next one. These are the ones that are specifically seen in children. The peer rejection, impulsive and risky behavior such as, yes. Yep. Drugs, yeah, Shaylee, that's true, drugs. This is an interesting one, boredom. I bet we see that sometimes with our students. Substance abuse, hyperactivity. Oddly enough, for kids, we learned in one of our school counseling classes that hyperactivity is part of depressive situations for students, which we would never think of. Hypersensitivity, separation anxiety, especially in younger children where they don't want to leave their parents. So as we're thinking about this and we're working with kids, how are we going to see peer rejection show up? Yes.
I know being in the classroom, I've seen a few of my students, like, they'll be working on group projects and, like, you could just tell, like, just the way the peers interact with them being in the classroom, like, peer rejection, or if you can tell some of the peers are just kind of like, okay, this is a project, I'll be here, but once this is done, I'm done.
Yeah, interesting. And I think you can see all of these in student behavior. Anytime you have a student start to withdraw, that is going to be a sign. The boredom. Sometimes it would be easy to diagnose ADHD, but what you're really seeing is depression coming as the form of hyperactivity. All of these things that you see students dealing with in the classroom, be aware that depression could be the cause of their behaviors. Okay, these are the Kaluli people. I listened to a TED Talk by Stephen Allred. The Kaluli people were really interesting to researchers because here they were Papua New Guinea people in the highlands, and they went and spent 10 years, whole decade with them. And what they saw out of all of the people was one person with depression out of 1,000, which was really interesting, especially because there was high rate of parasites, there was early death, lots of infant mortality. I mean, they do not lead an easy life, but it's interesting that there were no depression symptoms. This is where they are located. Okay, one more. There's another picture of the Kaluli people. Okay, Shauna, one more. So as they got talking about what makes the Kaluli people so different from the society that they live in, we know it as the fight or flight. But he calls it a runaway stress response. And we all know, if you're attacked by a panther, what are you going to do? Run. You're going to run. So in the short term, it's a really important thing. You want to run away from that panther. That's an adaptive skill that we have. Long term, however, when we are faced again and again and again, we wake up in the morning and our life is stressful. We deal with stressful things. We go home and we have pressure to meet all kinds of obligations. Pretty soon, our fight or flight response, our runaway stress response, is going to become toxic. It's one of the dangers that we have of living in the society that we do. Go ahead, Shauna. So there were suggestions that he gave to help with depressive, and I'm not a therapist, but I'm going to trust him, and I know that this one is true. The physical activity or exercise. Raise your hand if you know that you should be exercising. Everybody except for Jacqueline. Jacqueline doesn't have to exercise. I don't know, maybe Cameron. I don't know if he raised his hand either. But what he found was, 30 minutes of the exercise 3 times a week, when they did a study on it, it was twice as effective as taking a Zoloft. He said, if I could capture what happens with exercise in a little pill, I'm telling you, it would be sold off from the shelves. So somebody who's in a really heavy cycle of depression, this may not be the immediate solution for them, but it's something for us to remember if we know that we have tendencies going that direction. And not only does he say exercise, but he says the social aspect of the exercise, the touching, the being together, is a really important part of it. It makes it palatable. I guess that's the word I use for it. In fact, he had a mouse that he had put on it was cute, on a little, like a dog leash. And he put that mouse on a treadmill, and the mouse refused to walk to the point where it rubbed the hide off from the mouse. So we are made to exercise, but we are also made to be social. The Kaluli had 4 hours of exercise. They never considered it exercise because it was just part of their life, part of their sociality. Okay. Sunlight, so important. The vitamin D. How many, when the weather goes on until April, have a struggle with this? It's hard. Remember that sunshine is good. Jason had a light in his office the other day. Go team. Does it help?
It does. I walk in and I can tell a difference. Like I'll have like an off morning, and I'll turn the light on, and then by the afternoon, it's like I'm rejuvenated. It's really interesting.
Ah, so fun. So there are other methods too. Laura?
I have a light too, and I supplement with vitamin D, but it's really interesting because when you get the right kind of light, like I just have a portable one so I can take it home too. Even though the light itself does not produce any heat whatsoever, like my skin starts to feel warm just from being near it. It helps so much.
That's interesting that you both see the effects. I also think it's a great talking point with students, but
Yeah,
that's just me. Yeah.
I don't recommend this, but I had a friend who would experience like really, really bad wintertime depression,
Mm-hmm.
and she would go tanning like once a month. Just lay in the UV bed and feel the warmth to make her happy again.
Yeah. Yeah. Great, good point. I can't say one way or the other, but just remember when you're dealing with depression that sunlight is a great therapeutic way to start feeling better. Okay, Shauna? Healthy sleep. This is so good. And this is difficult when you're in the middle of depression because you have a tendency to either sleep too much or too little. But there are things that you need to do, such as no screen time 1 hour before bed. No exercise 4 hours before bed. No eating after 6 o'clock in the evening, and no drinking. Oh, golly, you guys are also disappointed. Yeah, okay, we have a comment.
Why the 4 hours, like the exercise thing?
That's endorphins though, right?
It gets the dopamine and the serotonin going. So,
You have to
yeah, Laura, okay.
I would say like if you want to go for like a little stroll or something within that 4 hours before bed, that can actually help with sleep, but avoid like the heavy physical exercise. Like if you're going for a walk around the block a couple of times, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't stress.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. In fact, sometimes if I feel the tiniest bit of anxiety coming on, if I walk, it eliminates that. Not even at nighttime.
Yeah.
So that is a super good point. You all, we don't have time to really talk about it here, but you might want to consider meditation. I know you're not supposed to sleep during meditation, but if I ever wake up in the middle of the night and I apply some of the principles of meditation, usually it calms me. Usually, unless the anxiety is bad, it will help me to recover some of my sleep. So, hi, Rod. Okay. Yay! This is my, oh gosh, I love you guys. Okay. Do you know what rumination is? Shaylee.
When you think about something over and over again and don't let it go.
Yeah, and when I am in the middle of struggling with a depressive cycle, this is what happens. I can't make it go away. I can't make it go away. I try to sleep and it's there. I try everything I can and it doesn't go away. So as I was thinking about rumination, you can't let yourself stay on the negative things, but you can stay on the positive things. That's why they're on my rumination slide, because it is great when you know it's coming and you're ruminating to fill your brain with things that are positive and that make you happy. And by the way, this is kind of a take on what happened on Skyview. I think you kind of had the idea going beforehand.
Yeah, but then, so beforehand, we were just doing like big prints of things that they did, and so we picked like 5 out of 800 responses and really filter it. And then Chris saw the Skyview thing, and she wanted all of our responses from Inside Out put up on the wall. And so it's a lot more covered now.
Yeah, cool things are happening because of the ideas that we share with each other.
And because of that, all the bathrooms were tagged with little notes as well.
I saw that.
There was stuff, every single bathroom, every single stall, every single mirror.
Yeah, I saw that. That was fabulous. That was great. Okay, so eliminate the rumination or change your thought patterns. Takes practice, but I really do think that it's possible. Okay, onward. This is the most important one. This was Shaylee's way of showing that she loves the students that she works with. She is doing a clothing drive, obviously through the 28th through the 9th. Really what we all need the very most as we struggle and fight, and 25% of us are dealing with depression at varying times, is really to know, just like Jason and Emily said, is that we need to be loved. This was another example. This is what Ricky posted on the Facebook wall. It shows of her concern for us. just wanted to say that I'm super grateful for all of you. It's amazing to work with such dedicated and passionate individuals. I'm thankful for your service in our community and for the contribution to each of you make, both personally and through your programs. Happy holiday to you all. Maybe it didn't have the same effect on you, but it was very impactful and meaningful for me. So was Shaylee's project. I love it when we share with each other. We have an obligation to reach out to each other. And once we do, I really believe that the connection and the bonds and the feelings of love will be developed. Okay, just a couple more ideas. This is the scream. Have you seen it? Mm-hmm. Pretty typical. He was alarmed. He did 3 different versions of this, actually 4, because he did one in stone. This one is the oil and pastel version. And you will notice in this particular photo, the 2 people that are walking away from him. I think it's really, it signifies well what people feel like when they are in a state of depression. And this was his description. I was walking along the road with 2 friends, and the sun was setting. Suddenly the sky turned blood red. I paused, feeling exhausted, and leaned on the fence. There was blood and tongues of fire above the blue-black fjord and the city. My friends walked on, and I stood there trembling with anxiety, and I sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. And he later said, this could have only been painted by a madman, and he was a little bit disappointed. His artwork kind of veered away from this. And as a side note, it was stolen 2 different times. Major art theft. Once in '94 and once in 2007, I think. Okay, I want you to contrast the scream with, will you go forward one, Shauna? With the child's bath. And notice what the difference is between the 2. What can you identify that's happening in this picture that is working for them as compared with the other one? Laura?
Connection.
Connection in what ways? What are you seeing?
Well, here, like, it's a tender moment, you know, like, bathing a child can be a real bonding experience. And it looks like a teaching moment to me, the way they're positioned, the way they're set up. You know, there's good communication going on there. And, you know, the other photo, like, he's just by himself, friends didn't stop and turn around.
Yeah, go back one, Shauna.
At least that I know of.
See the distance? See the distance? Okay,
Yeah.
Go forward one. Now look at what's happening. You're exactly right, Laura. The touch. And not only is the mom touching the child, but look what's happening with the child touching on the knee. It is trust. It is, I think it may be one of the best cures for depression. Okay. So our responsibility is to reach out and love and care for each other. We're sitting in a perfect spot to do that for each other. I don't see what Ricky sees. I see only people that are loving and caring about each other. And it's a great way that we can help each other when none of us knows what somebody else is wading through and struggling through. So just really quickly, I think I'm supposed to tell you about my Facing project. It started, we wrote a grant last June, and we received the grant money. And this is how the project works. We called it Facing Depression in Cache Valley. And we have identified 24 people who have stories to tell about depression. And some of them are really difficult. They're hard. They filled out a Google form, and even reading the Google form was hard. Some really serious struggles. The people with those stories who were willing to tell are now in the process of being matched with writers from the community and writers from the university. Those stories, starting in February, will be printed into a book, and then up here on campus and one down in the community, there will be 3 presentations of those stories, done by Madam Asta and the theater department up here. So it's a very cool project. Krista is helping, Rachel's helping with some of the fundraising. And also one of the things that happened with the Depression Project, we wanted longevity and sustainability with it. We wanted its impact to keep carrying. So Sterling Morris at the hospital, they had identified 4 goals. One of them was depression. So when we met each other, it was a perfect match. And he right now will be administering some depression screenings at all of the performances. And then within 7 days, The people who have identified as needing help with depression will be referred to a mental health professional who will be able to guide them and give them the help that they need. So I'm going to go ahead and pass out this questionnaire, but know that I'm a little bit hesitant and a little bit worried because I'm not like Sterling and I don't have the resources that are available if you by chance are one of the people who identify and struggle with this. But hopefully we are here for each other, and hopefully after seeing Emily Pugsley's, we know some resources that we can go to. So I caution you as you do it, but you might find the information useful as well. So actually, as we're sitting together as VISTAs, if you have any ideas, I mean, they are working so hard to get funding to back it up, but I am sure open for suggestions, or we're hoping to, the performance and the book publication will come out and coincide with Mental Health Week. So we're hoping to distribute books there, to distribute books to schools who are interested, to community, whoever is interested and think that the book, and it's going to be beautiful.